When I was a kid living in West London, my mum's big dream was to win the football pools and buy houses for all my aunts and uncles. She couldn't have imagined that 50-odd years later, just owning a house in the southeast gives you a good chance of ending up a millionaire. New research by Sky News shows that just over a fifth of households in London are now worth more than £1 million. But the same proportion of people living in the capital are amongst the poorest in the country. This growing inequality largely stems from the fact that some, mainly older people, own their own homes, while others spend huge sums on rent. Theresa May expressed her concern about it this week. But what should she or can she do about it? I think we should probably increase inheritance tax and consider making people pay capital gains tax on the money they make on their house when they sell it. Now, this won't be popular, but if we want to tackle inequality, the time's come for tough choices.
I mean, I think there was a part in your intro there where it sounded like an attack on baby boomers. People like me and like you, I guess, you know, and we're constantly being told we're selfish and wrecking the lives of others because what we did was we worked hard, we saved, we bought a house. And somehow it's now our fault that millennials can't have a house and that we should now be punished for having our houses. And I don't believe that is the case. I mean, we had a discussion here last week where we're talking about Damien Green talking about putting 2p on the national insurance for
over 40s.
For over 40s, which would nearly count the baby boomers, to pay for social care. Now, that I totally agree with, but Dave Willett, who was the boss of the Resolution Foundation, he is suggesting 15p on our tax to pay to help millennials get onto the housing ladder and have the things that we already have, which is outrageous.
I've got a clip of David Willett, so should we see what he actually said?
We're all familiar with wealth inequalities between rich and poor, between men and women, but there's another very important inequality now between people based essentially on their age. Because if you got into the housing market early on, before the massive booms in house prices of the last 30 years, then you're sitting on massive capital gains, but it's harder for the next generation to do the same.
And just on a slight point of clarification, Carol, what David Willett's actually saying, a 15p would need to be put on tax for the millennials unless we take action now, just to stress that point.
I mean, I get that, but that also plays to my point. Why should people who have done nothing other than work hard, save hard and bought a house, why should they be punished now for having that? Why should their old age be thrown into turmoil because the people at the other end...
No, I'm not suggesting you throw their old age into turmoil at all.
He's suggesting wouldn't do that.
All I'm saying is people have made significant sums out of their houses, beyond their wildest dreams. You know, something that used to cost 50,000 now sells for $750,000. Is it so wrong to say, well, when you die, you have to pay inheritance tax on that, or when you sell it, then maybe you've got to pay some tax? Now, I can accept that it's incredibly difficult, but
that's for your kids.
The real discussion is, do we think the growing inequality between rich and poor is a problem? If you don't think it's a problem, then you should knock me to pieces. And so, but it's interesting that even the Conservative government
realise it's dangerous.
Thinks it's a problem.
When Theresa May tried to deal with intergenerational unfairness during the election campaign, you know, she lost the majority because people are very protective of what they have, and I think
and the people
quite legitimately. But I think that what we have more than anything else is a problem with the wildly inflationary state of the housing market
in parts of the country.
So may I make a suggestion on it?
Okay, let's see what Theresa May has to say about housing.
If you look at wealth inequality, what we do see is that those people who've been able to get on the property ladder in the past have seen their properties rise in value, they've been accumulating that asset, and then we've got those people who just don't feel that they're going to be able to share in that in the future.
And I kind of get that, but I don't believe that when you die and you leave a sum of money, I don't believe it should all be taken from you when you have worked all of your life. But he's saying that the inheritance tax should be more.
Actually, this government's plan is to reduce inheritance tax over the next 3 years.
By raising the threshold.
I can't see any justification for that. Most of the people who've made money out of their houses have never paid tax on that money at all.
No, they haven't. But Greg, they don't have any money until they sell the house and they're dead by the time they sell the house, which is when their kids get the money.
But
which seems
are their
ultimately fair
kids?
to
So
me.
the question is, are their kids entitled to the money,
Yes.
or should society that is a massive capital gain that they never expected?
Greg, can I say, well,
Nearly, Nick.
do you think that some of this might actually be resolved if Brexit happens?
Oh,
Because...
no.
Yes.
No, let me finish.
Housing
No,
crash.
this is where I'm
The baby
actually
boomers get
on
blamed for
your
that as well,
side
by
of
the
Oh,
way.
right, OK. Oh, great.
In the sense that the top end of the market will fall out, and particularly in places like London, and surely that will have an impact on the rest of the market.
I wonder if I could have my say, because in a previous conversation, I mentioned the movie Network.
Okay.
In this
With what's your
conversation...
man called? Peter
Chavinsky,
Chemyaz,
yes.
yeah.
Now, in this conversation, it's clearly Groundhog Day, because yet again, Greg Dyke had extraordinary largesse that he's earned, I grant him, and that he has. He wants the other people out there on Struggle Street who are working their off, who have paid taxes all their lives, who paid tax when they
people he's talking
who've paid
about are not
all
on
the
Struggle
taxes,
Street.
and then,
Give
they,
all that money
and then
away.
they want to give the money to their children. So if you'd like to sign that cheque
Thank you
for
very
the
much.
second
Actually,
opportunity...
I sent a very large cheque to HM Revenue
And
and
it's a lot
Customs
more
only
than
yesterday, so
that.
it was quite a bit more than that. So, but thanks for helping me to do that.
But they
No,
paid
but
all their lives.
No, my point is, they bought houses when they
Yes.
were young. By complete chance,
May I
these
make a
houses
point
are now
about the
worth a
baby
fortune.
boomers?
At interest rates of 17%.
Yes, no
That's
baby boomer denies that they bought a house for twopence halfpenny and now it's worth 2 million or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So this is my thought. I think that the stamp duty imposts of George Osborne meant that what we've got is a blocked
Yes.
housing market.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
the high values of the housing stock are locked in by the fact that people aren't moving. So what we need to do is unblock the housing market rather than by tax the baby boomer generation to help the millennials up it. We've got to get the baby boomers down the housing ladder, which means cutting stamp duty. Let's say
agree.
over 60s.
And ride a coach and horses through planning regulations.
Absolutely.
Get them building
that will
houses.
release a huge amount of
agree.
housing
To be fair,
stock.
the government are trying to do that. It'll be interesting to see if it works. But they are trying to get
But with
a lot more
first- but
houses
with first
built
time
quickly.
buyers.
Pretty lame stuff
But I
this
mean,
week, Greg.
we shouldn't pretend that this is a problem everywhere. This is
Southeast
certain
problem.
parts of the
This
country,
country,
but
yeah.
particularly the southeast, where people have made vast sums of money that they didn't.
just punish everyone here then. That's not fair.
But they didn't work for
No,
it.
but that's also...
This isn't money they worked for. They bought a house when they were.
the house
But
rent.
Greg,
The
but
fact that
that's
the house has
also
gone up
because
is
of the
another
influx
matter.
of wealthy people that we had move into these cities and these parts of the country. I think Brexit might change that. I think let's wait and see. If Brexit actually happens, I think a lot of this stuff will
So
sort
you're
itself
thinking
out.
that house prices will crash because of Brexit?
Am I going
Yeah,
to sell a
I
house
do.
because of Brexit? This comes as a bit of a shock. How did that happen?
Even I, who is a pretty strong Remainer, even I can't see that happening.
I think
But you,
it will.
but you just
I think
said
it
that
really
people
will.
didn't earn the money that they've got in their houses. No, but when all of us, I'm sure, were younger and we were paying our mortgages, it was hard to pay the mortgages. And I remember interest rates of 15, 17%. It was more than half of my salary. So we didn't get that. We say we haven't earned it. We worked to keep the house.
But the sort of job you had, or the sort of job I had at 30, wouldn't buy you. You couldn't get a big enough mortgage to buy a house today. And without your mum or your dad giving you a chunk, you can't
And
save
no
it.
government has yet dared tax us on the appreciation of our assets.
Yes.
Well, they
That's the
do
thing.
on all
Not
other
even
assets.
council tax.
No, they do.
And nor
Yeah.
should they. You know, the thing is, a lot of people bought property because Gordon Brown messed up the pensions, and so people went into
It's
property
just fueled by
to
jealousy.
make that
It's not
feather their own
jealousy.
bed.
If you don't think it's an issue, if you don't think that
not the
actually
point.
a growing inequality is an issue, that's fine.
It is
if
an
you
issue.
do think it's an issue, you've got to try to work out what do you do about it.
And for a stable society, it is an issue.
In a
but-
sentence, supply and demand, build more houses. She didn't go far enough last week or this week.